Hi all, Jessie B Scrapbooking back with a process video. This one is for the new series that we just started last month of Mad About Mini Paper Pads. And I have a whole bunch of pictures of my niece and nephew in track last year. So I want to try to get as many of them on a single page layout. I think there's 7 pictures here. And I'm going to be using this very old paper pad. It's a 6x6 paper pad. I have no idea where it came from. It came in a box of gifted stuff to me. Someone was getting rid of all their old scrapbooking papers and knew I scrapbook, so they gave me this a couple of years ago. And I've used it a couple times, but it's very thin paper. It is very thin paper. But I like it, and I like the colors in it. And I'm going to be using a sketch from my sketchbook here, and it's sketches for 6x6 paper pads, 1-page sketches, the class. I can't show you the sketch itself because it is paid content, but it's by Allison Davis and Scrapbook Generation, and I actually love the class. So I want to reuse one of those sketches that were in it. So let's get going. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is cut down all my pictures. I'm going to have 4 that are a little bit bigger and then 3 little tiny ones. So this one here of my nephew running away from me is probably one of the biggest ones. And then this one here with my niece running towards me. And so those 2 are the main pictures of them. And then I end up adding this littler one of my niece running, and then another one of her and my husband sitting on a bench as she was getting ready to throw the shot. And so he was keeping her company, and she was wearing my big coat, and I just thought it was really cute because it was so cold, and this was actually before all the running started. But these other ones, there's, I think, 2 of my nephew, and one of them he's running, one of them he's just standing and waiting, and then the other one is just my niece running at the end of her race. So, I mean, these are all just pictures of running kids, and I don't have a lot of, I mean, they're just like single pictures of them. They're not like huge group shots of the whole teams or who they're running against or anything. And so I don't need them very big. And so I actually cut them down to 1.5 inches square, those little ones. Now I'm picking out the papers from this paper pad, and I'm going with the red tones since the kids' uniforms are red. And I think I picked 5 papers. And I am going to cut these down to 1.5 inches. Yeah, 1.5. I had to just double check. So these are all just 1.5 inch squares. I wasn't sure exactly how many I was going to need, so I just did 2 strips of each paper. And that was more than enough. I have leftovers that I'll probably make a card or something with. So I got them all cut up, and now I'm going to do a 1/2 inch border on the top and sides. And that way these pictures will sit perfectly in that border, and it'll give me a 1/2 inch border all the way around on this. It's a cardstock with a little tiny flecks of sparkle in it. I noticed that my camera was way off, so I fixed that. So sorry about that. I was going to cut that out. Alright, so here's how the squares are going to sit, but I am going to rough up the edges just with my fingernail, and then later I grab a pair of scissors and just rough them up, because that way, if they're not perfectly square, since I was cutting them on my um, guillotine trimmer there, um, they will all still be able to overlap it a little bit if they need to, or it hides all the imperfections of anything. And I like the way it looks. So I'm getting them all here down. I'll show you like the first row and a half, and then you just get the idea. And I tried to keep them from duplicating in each row. So that's flower one, it's only in one in each row, up and down and side to side. And so I did that with all the papers. A couple of the papers are pretty similar in color, but all the patterns are different. And yeah, I really like the way this looks. It looks like a quilt, and I just think that's really pretty. I do believe on the sketch there was no border for the pictures, or for the, sorry, there was no border for the squares, but yeah, I wanted that little bit of a border all the way around. So here's the 4 pictures I'm putting at the bottom. I'm going to just put these little pictures up onto some of those squares, and they just, are bordered by those squares, and I like that. And then I'm just going to use the leftover pieces of paper that I had to mat each of the pictures. And I'm going to do them all in a different piece of paper. And they kind of blend in a little bit, but with the pictures being so bright and the papers being that darker red, I think the pictures stand out just fine. So, and so I'm just getting them all bordered up and placed where I kind of want them. This is where I noticed that one picture, that little bitty picture of my niece running, is too close to the picture of my nephew's back. And I will move that picture, that little one, up one row. Oh, excuse me. So here's that picture I was talking about of my husband and my niece sitting on the bench. It's a cute picture. I like it. So here's where I'm moving that one picture up, just one row, and I like that a lot better. And that way I can pull up my nephew's picture a little bit higher, and yeah, it doesn't run into each other. It still has a nice gap. And now I'm just putting the pictures, getting them adhered down how I want them, and I got all 7 of these pictures onto a page. And so I'm very, very happy about that. This paper here, I will end up fussy cutting some of those banners out of in a second, but it had like these little banners that were made out of like doilies, and so it made me think to pull in a doily. So I'm just going to stick this doily down here in this corner, and now I fussy cut all these little bitty flowers out, and so I'm going to have 3 clusters of flowers. I start off with thinking I was just going to put one big cluster here, and I'm playing with it and looking at it, and I don't like it. So I'm going to move those off. And I was thinking, and then I had this one I punched out from one of the papers. It's a rose, if you can see it. And so I'm going to put a flare on that. And this is where I decided to do 3 clusters of flowers with 3 different size flowers. And so I'm going to do that, get those laid out. I needed another tiny flower, so I grabbed a scrap paper that had a little bitty one on it, and I just used my hole punch for that, the little tiny hole punch. I don't know what size it is. It's just regular size for punching holes in binders. And so I'm adding that. And I'm sorry I'm off camera a little bit at the bottom. I did not realize. But uh, here's where that banner is. It has like the little doilies. I don't use that. I use this one right here. I move it around a little bit, trying to decide if I liked it better on the top or on the bottom, and take it off and put it back on. But I end up liking it at the bottom. That's where I'm going to keep it. So I'm just using a tiny little drop of glue onto these flowers to get them adhered down. Here's where I come in with that epoxy flare and or epoxy plastic to make my own flare. And so I'm going to put that rose right there. And then I remembered I didn't actually glue the doily down, so I ran some glue underneath of it. And yeah, I'm going to get these little flowers adhered down. And then, like I said, I'll put that banner in the bottom corner. So while I'm doing that, I don't want to forget to mention that this is a hop. Lots of people are going to be playing along, so I have everyone in the description box down below. And yeah, it's so much fun to get out your small paper pads and use them. And this is a great way of using little paper pads. And with these littler sizes, you can cut out the squares a little bit smaller, and they work great. Here's where I've come in with some sequins. I decided I needed a little bit of bling on this page. I'm using two different colors. One's kind of a brownish, and the other one's a bright red. And the bright red ones are tiny, so it gives me the two different size sequins. And I'm just kind of scattering them around the page. And I love the way that this turned out. So if you like this, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. And close-ups are coming. Bye.